Oh, that's fine. Yeah.
Joe, can you hear us? You are muted.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, we will call the Nisswa Council City Workshop for Tuesday, July 18th, to order. First item on the agenda, is the memo from City Administrator Max. Did everybody have a chance to look at that? This is under City Nisswa 24 budget levy council discussion.
So if I could, Mayor Ryan, so all of these items in the packet, they really go together depending on how and where the council wants to have the conversation.
Okay.
I'm happy to speak to any specifics. I think we will get to some of them throughout the discussion.
Okay.
But if you wanted to just maybe kind of tee up the
Yep.
purpose for tonight.
So the main reason we're here is to kind of get an idea of where everyone is at, where the council is at for preliminary levy. We really can't go beyond a preliminary levy discussion, but that's where we're at. You know, where are we comfortable setting our preliminary levy based on all the discussions we've had in the past and what we've heard from staff and what we're seeing. So that is where we're trying to get to tonight. If we can give the city administrator that direction so that when the budgeting process gets going in earnest, you can factor it in.
Yeah, and if I could add just a little bit to that. Ultimately, yes, we're looking to get to a preliminary levy number, keeping in mind that ultimately for the council, it's a number that you are comfortable with going out to the residents on their proposed property tax statements, knowing that we are still in process with the biggest factor right now being our union negotiations. So there's a bit of an unknown. So whether your preliminary number is 2%, 10%, 15%, whatever that is, just thinking about what will give us some room to work with as we continue to progress with the budget. And that will go out on property tax statements is important. So if there are things you want to discuss that you are supportive, that you feel those are the highest priority budget items to be included, that's helpful. If it's just, here's my levy number, and that's just where we're going to work backwards from that, that's great too. So I just wanted to provide a little bit of the context there.
Right. We do not, but we don't want to go down item by item by item like we did the last meeting. We've done that. I think we know where staff's coming from. They've given us plenty of information to go through. And so rather than going line item by line item like we did last time, we want to make sure that, to your point, if there's something that's, major, that's great, but with all that in mind, let's get going. So
Do you,
okay.
sorry, are you sure? I have a few odds and ends. I can wait, or I can present the couple of additional things first. You've seen them, John, but I just showed you. So if you'd like me to
Why
go,
don't you go ahead and present them?
I'll just, there's some basic things. So I want the council to be aware. And Councilmember Hall, I did just email you this information. If you're able to toggle back and forth, I'll try to describe everything well enough so you can follow with us as well. So we have received 2 budget requests for consideration in our 2024 budget. One is from the Lakes Area Food Shelf for $5,000. And one is from the Crow Wing County Historical Society. No specific amount was included. We do get a letter from them every year. We haven't included anything in our budget historically. Certainly have an option for either or both. Neither wanted to make the council aware of that. A couple of miscellaneous items in the packet that I would like some feedback from the council at some point. It doesn't have to be specific as we're working on the 24 budget. City Hall improvements memo that I sent out on Friday. You have a paper copy with you now. Information about improvements at our County Road 18 roundabout. And then I'd like to talk a little bit about our plow truck purchase because we've received an updated quote. And I think we can maybe take another step to move forward with that. A couple of pieces of information for you to be aware of. We will have one-time revenues funding coming from this last legislative session from public safety, from the public safety bill. It'll be just under $89,000. And so that will have to go towards police and fire departments. My suggestion to the council is that as we work with individual departments in the next few weeks on their budgets, that I would have them put a list of suggestions on how they want to use that money and bring it to the council in August for you to consider. Again, it's one-time funding. And we'll probably have to use it. I don't know the time frame, but I'm guessing it would be in the near future to get that used. So that would be my suggestion with those funds. And then also to make you aware that with this last legislative session, we will have ongoing funding, what they call a Small Cities Assistance Fund, and it is for road maintenance and improvements. So the allotment we'll receive upcoming will be just under $88,000. And we'll see that funding and that will increase into the future. My recommendation would be we add that to our road bond capital reserve fund. We'll be talking about another road bond here in the next 6 months as we start to have that conversation. So there's more money there for that purpose. Just wanted to make you aware of that as well. We do also have approximately $30,000 remaining in ARPA funds. So as we talk about budget, we can also consider if there's a good use for using the rest of those funds that we do that. And one last thing just to point out, because I missed it last week, it came and went, that the June CPI number came out at 2.24% for June. I was down from 3.7 from May. With that, I will pause. I just wanted to give you some just high level kind of additional pieces of information with the budget. I do have the sheet if we need to reference any details. As I noted, really in summary, totaling up all of the items from the general fund and considering an estimate for wages and just general inflation, we are looking at 20% increase over 2023. So with that, I will pause.
Okay. So who wants to go first? Joe?
Sure, I guess I can start. A couple things,
Can we turn
does
Joe up?
Jenny or anybody else, can everybody hear me okay?
Hang on a sec, Joe. They're trying to turn your volume up.
Okay.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
there we go.
Okay. I guess I'd first start with, back when we had our workshop back in April, do we have the current list of needs that needed to be addressed by staff and council at that time? Is that prioritized and reflective somewhere in this budget summary?
Councilmember Hall, we have not had department budget meetings yet. So the items that are in the packet reflect new budget requests that have not been requested before. So items that might, need to increase above this current year that we are currently doing, but need to adjust for some reason. That is a part of the general inflation number that I estimated, just to say we're going to have an increase for what we're doing in the, priorities for the department, but anything new is in the new items list that was in the packet. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, so like I'm specifically asking, like additional staff for like the police department for a secretary. That number is what you're talking about in there. I'm just clarifying that we're on the same page.
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. The next question I would ask is the on the building and the properties there. I got that email this week, the new plan, the new drawing, but I'm confused. I guess back then and even last month, We said that we were just doing improvements, made the bulletproof glass at the counter, repairing the roof that leaks, windows, doors, but yet we have a whole nother drawing for moving walls and stuff, which we've discussed now several times that we're not doing, but yet we got a new drawing. And I'm wondering why we keep bouncing back and forth on that.
I can certainly answer the question. So, yes, there's probably somewhat of a disconnect depending on your interpretation of, moving walls. Certainly the intent was to pare down, which we did significantly, the initial design for the city hall improvements. That included an expansion, included other improvements. And what we wanted to do was keep the existing framework of the building, move some interior walls, yes, but we talked also about trying to improve the staff efficiency and the operations with which we do our work. I expected the question because quite honestly, the last conversation in June with the council was a bit awkward. It was a bit of not quite sure we were moving forward and trying to make the right decisions for the needs and addressing those things, which I think we really focused in on the important components of storage for our files, having the mother's room, things like that, and also adequately preparing for staffing needs into the future. Also realizing that sometimes some things have to adjust when we do that, and looking to keep the structure of City Hall here, the location here. I assume that's what we'd like to see from a council perspective for 20 plus years. I think this is a good meet in the middle. Certainly wanted you to have something to actually reference when making decisions. And if you don't like this direction, then it would be nice then at this point, now that you have something to reference, that then we can make some final decisions. But I think these were important things staff identified as priorities and would really help their work, and wanted to present it as something actual for you to decide on.
Yeah, so I guess I just want to be clear on that, because even back in April, when you summarized the meeting in April and the email went out, on the wants or needs, even back then, it was decided at that time not to move the conference room, not to move interior walls, and just to fix up desks and properties. And that's what we all agreed upon last time. And so moving a wall to me is moving a wall. And so there's no disconnect on my end. It's just, I don't know. It seems like we're just circling the wagons here and keep coming back with the same thing. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe another council has another opinion or idea that's come out of this, but over the last several months, this has been the theme, and the emails that have gone out and everything, that we're not doing this. And so I guess out of all the budgetary stuff, it comes back and going, well, hold on a minute. What are we doing? Why do we keep doing this? Why do we keep going down this avenue, even though we said no multiple times now?
I guess from my perspective, certainly council can let me know in April. I know there was a desire for the council to ask staff to revisit the items that we had discussed and to pare down what we had looked at that point. So that was the effort that I took, and we had some conversations and some meetings in the office trying to address both. Certainly though, as a consensus of the council, you can tell me if you don't like this direction or how you feel about it.
Well, I'll agree with Joe. My understanding was we were going to take care of the windows and the roof and then wait some time for everything else. Get these things done now, put that off for down the road, but I may have misunderstood too.
I think part of maybe the question as well, as we talked about funding, was likely the need would be to issue a bond to do that.
Yes.
There wouldn't be enough to issue a bond if we just considered those things, and not that there couldn't be maybe another avenue to pursue with that. But looking at trying to truly address, if we're going to come back at another time, I'm not sure what that means. Are we talking 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? And are we just creating too many smaller projects within what we could just do at once?
So the higher the amount, the better the bond.
Essentially, anything less than $1 million is going to be difficult to issue a bond
Okay.
and get a good rate.
Right, and
Not
at
to
this
say that
point,
this meets $1 million. I don't know that, but I'm just saying it was, if we just did the structural, we would be far away from that amount.
yeah, and I'm not looking to spend more money to get a better deal. I'm looking to spend less money. I mean, 20%, I'll just say right now, no, I'm not going to go to taxpayers and say we want to raise 20%, especially if we're talking about optional items that don't need to be done. Right now, for my opinion, we need to trim.
And
And,
to be
you know,
clear,
if we,
this is not a part of the 20%. So this is a
Okay.
separate from 24. So while it's important to have the discussion about the building, also just know that's not a part of the 20%.
okay, that's fine. I mean, some of the needs that we have right now, I mean, I would say we need to take care of our roof, our windows, you know, and for that, I would just tap into the reserve and, you know, move on.
How does staff feel? What was their push or when we sent this back to you and you were looking and staff was involved in the redesign, relooking at stuff? What was their opinion? I mean, how much of this is what they would like to see? And is any of this on here something that we have to provide and we don't currently? There's some stuff
Yep.
like the mother's room, for
Yep.
example.
Yep. Yes. Yes, we are required to have a space for that purpose.
Okay,
We do have an open office currently that is not equipped in the way it should be for that purpose. And so you look like you have a question.
What do they need for equipment? I mean, rocking
Lactation
chair.
purposes, you know, essentially having a sink and a small fridge to be able to store milk and things like that as they need. That is a part of a requirement that we should have as an employer. Trying to place that next to the mechanical room would provide the easiest way to have the plumbing necessary to do that, which is why that went there. And then consolidating the file room, that's essentially why the conference room was moved.
Is there a deadline as to when we have to have that mother's room in?
We have to have it now.
Oh.
So we have been, we are able to utilize an empty office space
That-
as meeting a portion of that. So we sort of meet it, but having a sink is a part of that.
A sink is mandatory.
I believe so, yes.
Can we
Yeah.
check on that for sure?
Sure.
I echo their sentiments, primarily in regards to understand our size of a small municipal city as we are. Yes, we drive through rural Minnesota cities all the time. We see very small city halls, right? City halls that look like they were built in 1890. I would imagine that they don't, whether they're compliant or not compliant, understood. But if we have to make concessions here to be able to be as conservative with our dollars and taxpayer dollars as possible, I would also like to explore the notion behind the family bathroom, if that is also a legal requirement through the state. If it is not, then perhaps that would be an immediate need. Otherwise, I'm looking at just shuffling rooms here for a conference room to where it's at now. I just do not see enough justification to go through these dollars outside of adding additional scopes of work to further increase our bondability for the project and securing a better rate. I just don't see enough evidence to sway my opinion on the matter.
The one thing I noticed, the secure information that we have to have, you know, like personal information that needs to be secured. Where is that being secured right now?
We have a few different areas. Our city clerk's office keeps some of the personnel information that's supposed to be secured, locked, things like that. Office door should be locked as well. We don't always get that done. And then we have our file room that has a locked cabinet as well. So we have a couple different places where we keep our files at this time.
So it's in several places right now?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that in like in that front office, just in the front? where you have a lot of the files
The
right now?
file room is when you walk into the employee area, that first door on your left.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of what you have in there and that there would be one room for the secure information, and I think that's very important to have that. But if we have it currently that we're able to keep it secure, then, you know, we can wait, but I like that idea of having that room made for security of that. And I think also, in addition to the roof and the windows and things like that, you're talking about a safety glass in case, in case someone,
Bulletproof glass.
yeah,
Essentially,
bulletproof
yeah.
glass.
When you're talking bulletproof glass, is it going to be from would it fill the entire area and then it would be speak through a microphone, or how would they do that?
I don't know. We didn't get into those details. I think there's different ways to look at that potentially because there's the noise barrier, or it becomes a challenge to hear back and forth. And if you have, fully solid, panes of glass and things like that. So we wanted to function well and be easily work with the public and not have this, kind of obstruction between the two. But the idea was to open up the front counter space, provide better use for staff to help the public. Right now, it's pretty awkward because you're right in the working space of an employee. And so that just gets to be logistically difficult between trying to help someone and having somebody work in their space. So trying to separate that, that was a goal as well, to provide better flow and service, certainly. But if we need to
Aren't we
leave it as
using
is,
that second window for that now?
that is for planning and zoning. That's not for example, if I need to help somebody at the front counter, Maggie's space is right there. And it's just, you're putting a lot of things right in a small space, trying to separate
Sure.
that a little bit and provide a little more of a, more one-on-one conversation. And then I don't
Could
have
we utilize that planning and zoning counter more? I mean, to date, we've only had 66 permits, if I read the packet correctly. So that would tell me that there's probably a lot of time that counter is not being used.
Possibly, yes. Something I was just thinking of too, we'd want to look at accessible height for the counter. If we can adjust for that, we should. I'm not sure with the current structure, but I'd have to look at that. Something like that would be ADA requirements. We would want to adjust for that.
Sure.
But
Now,
so
I
really
know
just
that-
looking at the structural then is
Mhm.
really, and also there's a couple of things within the exterior of the building as far as snow cover and things we'd like to incorporate as well for safety, because there's ice and there's issues along the back wall that we would want to address. So we would do that as part of the structural then, if the council is supportive of that.
Just some
Yeah,
of
I
this addition. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And what I'm hearing is that everyone, don't let me speak for you if I'm wrong, but everyone is saying that we should just stick to the structural aspect of it, and the interior can just stay as is unless there's something we have to add by law.
That is my stance on it.
My
With the
stance.
exception of legal obligation for providing a mother's room, which I would then propose in lieu of having that be there. Perhaps it'd be over here on the opposite side of the men's bathroom, where plumbing is going to be easily accessible. If that's going to be a
Right.
cheaper alternative compared to on the backside of the mechanic room, where I don't believe that there's plumbing at. It's on the backside wall of the kitchen. So that would be my opinion on the matter.
I would also agree. And I'm just referencing the email from April 18th that was sent out that summarizes everything that we're talking about. I think the only thing in addition was on that email. You probably all got it. It looks like everybody was on it, even staff, but line 3 was the bulletproof glass. And then line 7 was for the PD side, but that was to be determined if Craig needed anything there for his officers. But otherwise, everything with this email is in line with what we're still saying tonight.
When did you have your last meeting with staff? on this, Jenny? Do you go? Or when was staff input taken after the April?
Oh, yeah, certainly. I'd say within the last month or so, we've had a handful of different conversations. We've had a meeting in here. They've reviewed plans to give me feedback. So certainly if I'm forgetting something or anything, feel free. I'm trying to kind of work through a lot of things. I think this is important.
Was there
and-
any input from the police department? Did they want to see any changes or have?
No, I received no input.
Because we're assuming that the new employee office manager for the police will be in that established
Yes.
office already. New hire, the new mechanic technician for Public Works will not be requiring an office. Which by my memory of walking through this side of the building, times I have, there's still some open space if necessary.
Yeah, there's open cubicles. There's one open office.
So question at this point, would
Well,
it be
then-
appropriate would this be appropriate to turn over to Tom then to get us a list of needs? And then we can figure out how we're gonna fund it to just get this moving ahead before we get into winter again with a leaky roof or bad windows or something? So we can just kind of put this to bed?
I thought we had that list
I
already.
thought, yeah,
We were supposed to.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but is it,
But
do
why
we give
don't we?
Tom the,
We-
yeah, is Tom getting quotes on all that, or what's the process to just keep the ball rolling, I guess?
Well, the process, okay, so the process would be to establish the scope of work. So if we were to focus on the structural needs as a conversation, then as Woodseth has started with us on this project, that they would help develop a scope of work. And we would bring that back to the council in August for you to approve, make sure we've got a complete list. Certainly work with Tom to make sure that's complete. And then continue through that process to make sure, at every point that we are moving forward as we should be with the project.
Yeah, I would say that's what we'd want to do at this point.
mhm.
Where is the list that we did have?
There was a
We
list at one
didn't-
time.
I remember seeing it as well. I don't think it's.
Well, the list would have been a compilation of the staff conversations, if that's what you're referring to from April. But so that would come from, so that we can bring that back in August.
Well, I think where we're at is we'd like that list by August. Then, is that what I'm
Yeah.
hearing?
Right.
Yep.
and
It
Yeah.
shouldn't be that hard. to
Look at the
get.
structural and not the change.
Correct.
Well, that's fine. Yeah.
Yep.
But I would
Okay.
encourage staff to let the city administrator know too, if there's things that aren't working. If there's things we got to do to make things work better, let us know. So.
Well, and perhaps they have,
Yes, that's the result of what you have in
Yeah.
front of you.
They
So,
have, but
right.
Yes.
we're just gonna put it on hold for now. So.
I think it would be important to, that was great feedback, so thank you. I mean, just being at 6:30, I just want to be mindful of
Yep.
having the conversation of levy and where everybody is,
So,
direction we'd like to go.
so
Bill,
let's
where do you
move on,
want us-
let's move on to the, from that then. Jesse, your take on, we're at.
Without having to go line by line on
we're not
the
gonna, yeah. we don't
twenty-four
want to-
budget expenditures, we made the approach last year due to having two council members absent for that meeting, when the preliminary levy was set, I believe in Jenny, September, I think it was the month. Started high, went low. There's pros and cons of that. The big con was that when it goes public, that's our, knock to you, Nancy. It's just how people see it. When it goes public and we have individuals come here towards the levy being implemented in December, they thought that it was actually being raised by the
Right,
15-some%.
you're gonna
So-
get that every year.
Yep. So with that being said, we're not at September yet. We do have additional opportunity to try to refine any of our individual thoughts. And personally for myself, going through this as extensively as I have, I don't see anything that I would propose to modify as it's laid out right now. Understanding that the ramifications, not including the plow truck, it's going to be a 20% levy. I don't have additional input to modify this any further.
Mark?
Well, Yeah, this is a 20% levy. And there is one thing just one small item that I noticed in here, which won't make much difference, but there is we have for the sewer fund, you know, the mini excavator that's going in there, and we need that. But I also noticed that there's a pivoting grapple for the mini excavator that's in the public works side. And why not put that along with the sewer funds itself?
If the sewer fund can handle it.
Yeah,
That's the other question.
but it should be in there. I mean, it's for the excavator, if it can handle it. That's
and
my suggestion. This is the one thing that just stuck out at me.
we will definitely discuss equipment
Yeah,
when we
we'll-
meet.
yeah.
So, no, but thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, and we'll make sure we talk about that more to determine what bucket of money that should come from.
And then as far as the rest of the levy, you know, we're at 20%, a little over that, but there are many things in here that we really do need to have. But I don't know how you will pare it down unless you make major changes. I mean, you're talking about 1% for every $20,000. So if we want to get down to 15 or 10%, you're going to have to take a whole lot of money out. And there's not that many really big items other than, you know, like new employees type thing.
New hires,
Yeah,
which,
which we need.
yes.
I think, you know, as we're growing here, we are going to have more infrastructure coming up here with the parks and the pocket park, all these other items that we will be having as we grow here in Nisswa. But again, to take 20% levy is a lot. To me, if it's necessary, we have to do it, I think. So, but if it's not, where can we pare it down? And for me, looking at this, I could only come up with maybe about 2%, you know, it's rather difficult. Unless we go take drastic moves.
I'm gonna push Mark a little bit. So are you comfortable with the 20? I'm just trying to be clear.
No, I would rather try to get down at least to 15%.
Okay, so you'd like to see it more at 15 for the preliminary. Okay, thank you.
I'm sitting at 8. I mean, I look at 11% and 22, 12%, 23. I'm sitting at 8, and I know that's hard, but you've got a large percentage of the citizens that are set on a fixed income. Last couple of years been a hit on them. That's what I'll just say. I'd sit on them at 8%, but I think I'm the odd man out on that one.
I would love that too,
I know,
but then we have to get rid of the employees, you know, the new employees and all that to get down to that level.
I know.
And I don't even know if we can get down to that level, even if we got rid of the employees, the new ones.
No, and that's why I'll let you guys haggle it out and
Yeah.
slug it out, and then I'll see where we're at.
Yeah, because I'd like to try to accommodate the new employees, you know, and have them on board.
So my number for where I'm at for preliminary levy is 8. I can go to 9. But I have to say that I'm still pretty insistent. And I said this before, you know, this employee for the police department is a necessary thing, and it's getting more and more necessary every year, simply because of the things that are being thrown upon these departments every year, what they have to go through, what they have to, what they have to do, how things change. There's ways to bring that initial cost down, like hiring that employee halfway through the year. That is a little less of a blow initially, and it gets factored into the next year coming up into a budget. There's other things that we might be able, that we can do and still keep a balanced budget. Okay. We don't know what's going to happen with wages and COLA. You know, where's all this going to end at the end of the year, the general inflation, and then the union negotiations and stuff. I mean, we still got two negotiations, and then our general employees, our regular employees, non-union employees. So all that taken into consideration, I still I would like to see us set a preliminary at 8. I could go to 9. But, again, I mean, everybody took a hit, big time hit last year with the county and their property increases and stuff. I know all of my stuff went up just like everybody else's, and it hurt. Because my income didn't go up. But anyway, that's where I'm at. So then this, for the purpose of tonight, is to give an idea where we're at. So, we're still kind of all over the board.
We need to hear from Joe.
Joe?
Yes. So I guess, I started down through with some questions, but yeah, I think 20% is way too high. Immediately right away to give some interest to talk about the roundabout improvement, that's 20 grand. That's almost 1% there. But when we scroll down to that Parks and Rec, we've got 25,000 in there for marketing. Well, the design of that marketing is to help eliminate all the numbers above it. And so if that marketing's done correctly, and I just do some quick math, we could eliminate 4 or 5% there and still accomplish what our needs and goals are for the park.
Oh,
Does that make sense? That's
I'm not
through
following.
fundraisers.
I'm-
If you look underneath the park line item in the memo Jenny just sent out, there's a 25% line item in there for just city park improvements marketing, 25,000. That comes out to be 1%. Everything above that for the Lincoln Park bathroom, the updates, that's 1.2%, 2.68, 2%, 2%. You add that up, with quick math, and it's between 4 and 5% right there. But if the marketing is done correctly, our goal would be to, with the marketing, compensate those dollars through, funds, fundraisers, charitable donations, stuff like that. That was our, at least one of my goals through the talk and the conversation on, let's spend a little bit on the marketing on the front end and save ourselves 4 or 5% now what's showing on the back end. Are you following?
Yep.
I got it now.
So I would say that right immediately, that would be a huge focus for me. The roundabout improvements, same thing, maybe that could come off marketing. And then obviously we don't know about the employee stuff down there. My question is, with the employee stuff, some of these percentages last time, we were going to get the numbers checked on to see if they were accurate in my notes and comparing back and forth. Do we know if these percentages are accurate right now, or do we still need to look at some of those numbers? But immediately, yeah, I think trying to cut this down in that 8 to 9%, 10%, somewhere in there, is what we need to do. But I will say, in doing that, I don't want to compromise the new employees. If we are going to have this other pocket park, we need new people. The police department, they need their staff. We have to have the people be the focus, and we're going to have to cut elsewhere.
Well, like Mayor Ryan said, I mean, if one way to save on that would be to take on, if we were going with 2 new employees as the needs, instead of a close to 6% hit on the levy, if we bring them in and they start midway through the year, I mean, that would drop it down to a 3% add to the levy. So that's
correct.
taking 3% right off the top. And then I understand what you're saying about marketing. If we have marketing and we get the fundraising, the assumption is that hopefully we'd see some money next year so that we can get the bathrooms built, correct?
Right.
Is that what you're, okay. So
Yeah,
I can
correct.
Right. So I can understand that. But we'd have to have a contingency in case next year we don't have the monies in there for the bathrooms and so forth. So that would be, what's the contingency we'd have on that?
Yeah, so I would look at, we've got quite a bit of money into the reserves, and I would view this would be a reserve time, because we don't know what's going to happen in the future. So why keep raising the levy? Let's, if we got to get these bathrooms built for, 30 grand, I would say that's something that would be legitimate to come out of the reserve then at that point. But obviously more conversation with it. But question though, do we know if these percentages and numbers are correct at the bottom with the employee costs, or does some of that still need to be tweaked too? Is there a possibility that some of that could be saved?
You're talking the overall impact cost impact? That,
For the retention committee, like underneath the health insurance, the wages, I had a note that last time, like in the health insurance, maybe that those were needed adjusted a little bit and maybe in the wages, but I'm not sure. Does anybody recall that? That's just what I had in my notes.
No, we don't have it finalized because we'll be going to.
Right.
Closed session. No, I guess I would say with the employee retention committee numbers, these numbers have been the same for a couple of months. I did get
Okay.
feedback yesterday that I think the totals are correct. Maybe some of the allocations between general fund and enterprise fund might need to be tweaked, but didn't have an opportunity to change that. And since we've had these numbers for a few months, I think overall we can use them as good estimates. If we need to, we'll look at that. If we need to tweak them, we certainly can, but nothing significant, I don't think.
I would, two things, I'll be quick. Camp Lincoln in general, we have to have in 2024, correct? Okay.
Mhm.
So perhaps we make a move for Camp Lincoln costs, which would be 3.88% to take it out of the unreserved fund. Is that?
So I'm going to, so council members on it, that is certainly an option. What I would caution the council is that we are spending money this year on two significant projects. And the overage costs will come from the unreserved fund. So until those projects are complete and we see the impact, we can't always be going back to the unreserved fund for that purpose.
Are we projecting overages beyond both?
Well, not beyond where the bids came in, but as part of that, we knew we were short funding and we will have to bridge the gap for both of those projects. So, probably something like 300,000 for both projects. I mean, it's not
a million,
it's
but
not,
it's 300,000.
right, but it's still something. So I just want to make sure that we're thinking about what we're doing right now and letting that settle, by October or so, well before the final levy, we will know. So we can revisit that certainly. I just don't want that to always be our go-to. I think maybe for the Camp Lincoln, there could be a hybrid. There could be we need to levy some money. We could use some unreserved and maybe ARPA funding as an
Right, I was
example.
gonna say
I mean,
that-
there's ways to do that, and we certainly have to do that
'Cause
in
there's
part with that.
Because we do have that 30,000 in ARPA yet too, and that could be used towards the parks. Through Camp Lincoln. But I agree, we can't just keep dipping in.
You have to replace it eventually.
Correct. So Joe, where would you sit at? You said 9%?
Yeah, I'm down there with you guys, we gotta look at the numbers and see what we can do to get them down, hiring somebody partway through the year. Yeah, that's an option, but I really think for the city to grow and everything that we have going on, though, we need to make the priorities of
Correct.
the personnel top.
Correct. Otherwise, you're gonna get caught with your pants down and we're gonna be needing people and we don't have.
Right,
And then
absolutely.
you're scrambling. So yes, I think that those are the things that we need to take care of. Post haste. Now would Tom and Chief be okay with starting midway through the year? Okay, I got a
well,
yes
that's
on
something
that.
that we get to decide, yeah.
I know, but
We got to make the decision. It's a cost thing is what it boils down to. How do we make it work? Ideally, we'd make it work at the beginning of the year.
yeah, but that's. not
Or
gonna
maybe
work.
there's only one employee this year and one more next year. I don't know, but see where the final numbers come in. But I am encouraged with the cost of living being where it's at.
Yeah.
So,
And also, everything that we're talking about right now, there's a lot of good ideas and we'll have to finalize it at the end. But from what I'm hearing right now, even if we go with a half a year for both employees and we get lucky with the marketing and we do get a lot of money, we use the ARPA. If we could even use, we could use that. But even then, I'm looking at around 14%.
so let me come back around here because we are coming short on time. For the purpose of this meeting, where would people be
9%.
for preliminary levy?
9%.
And I'm 9, I can go with 9%.
I'm on board with that. We have to be realistic in getting there. Even pushing off this hiring for these two positions, that's just gonna be a decrease of 2.9%, assuming they start beginning of the third quarter in 24, halfway through the year. So from that standpoint right there, that's just,
Well, the
uh,
elephant in the room is where we end up with, contracts and.
Yeah,
and
that's the
stuff.
big thing, the
That's the
contracts.
elephant in the room right now. Where we end up with that, I mean, I think what we're trying to give staff direction that this is where we'd like to kind of be. And how do we get there?
Correct.
Yeah.
No, I'm hearing, so 3 council members roughly, I'm gonna round. All right, can I say 10? Can I say 10?
10,
Just for, just for purposes. So, I mean, that's what staff can work with over the next few weeks when we have our meetings. We're gonna have a workshop in August. So we will bring you back more information that we can, at least then we've got some framework. And if there's something that we need to address, additionally, at that point, we can work through it with you and talk about it. If it has to be more than that, you're not
With
sending
Jesse
anything
here
today.
too, with Jesse, as far as, we have to be realistic as well.
right.
If we want to achieve certain objectives here. So if we have to go higher, I will do that. I'm okay with that.
Understood. I mean, we'll bring you as realistic as we can put that together and let you.
Well, I'm
Discuss.
realistic too. I would just like to stay at that, like I said, 9, now Jay says 10. But I mean, if it comes down into August and it's like, no, it's gotta be 12. Okay.
And if it has to be 14, I'm okay with it too.
Okay.
If it has to be.
Has to be.
Mhm.
The
But I
other
mean,
side
there-
of, the other side of being realistic is if we have to cut items
Right.
Correct.
to keep it down. That's the
Correct.
other side of realistic. So,
But I think the real priority that we're talking about here also is to hire that necessary staff.
well, yeah, we want the operation to move forward and I'm just, yeah,
We have some big item things coming down the future too.
just adding up the items on the front of this page as presented, not anything to do with the retention committee items on the backside. It's 16.28% if my math's right. So elephant in the room, albeit that's still gonna be putting us at. And we have to be realistic with
well, the
what
plow truck is,
it's not included in the total below.
yeah, right.
So that mean that's just
And on
skinny.
August, we'll have a number on that, so hopefully we could move forward and pull the trigger on that, because
Yeah.
it'll be what, a good year, probably more. Yeah. And this one is nickel and diming us. So,
Okay, thank you.
So even just with hiring at the beginning of the third quarter for those two positions, I would put it, this front page at 13.38.
And if we can put the pivoting grapple for the mini excavator, if it can support it, put it into the sewer fund. That's 0.8. Just little things like that.
Shuffle dollars. I don't have any other.
speaking of shuffling dollars too, if there's one-off items in here that we need to cover, we do have enterprise funds that we can use for that, i.e. the spirits. We can.
Well, we can.
I'm not saying we want to, I'm just saying that it's a possibility that you could use some of the profits from the spirit after budgeting and everything is done and all of their expenses are covered and everything like that. If there is money left over, we currently get X amount a year into the general fund to help cover costs, which is the reason those two funds exist in the first place. So we could, if we had some one-offs that we could whittle down there too.
Would you, Jenny, at the next meeting in August, provide us with latest numbers and balances for each account and enterprise funds, general and reserved, et cetera. And maybe we can then decide based off of overages that you're anticipating or forecasting for these two projects, roundabout and trail. And then perhaps that'll help guide us with
Yeah.
plucking, say, 100 grand, which would be an easy quarter of this projected cost without cutting anything already. So,
Yep.
hey, it's just paper cuts to help the overall.
I can do that. And certainly part of this is what amount does the liquor fund need to transfer to the general fund as part of the budget? That can be adjusted, hasn't been for a couple of years.
Right.
That can be part of that conversation.
With also consideration of discussions for planning purposes for a new pickle factory
Correct.
also being taken into consideration too. So I mean, all funds, all reserves, all balances. So we can have some time to review them prior. Any questions that we have to
Well, and
ask you.
you're
prior.
gonna, you're probably gonna find that a new pickle, either it's a bond on its own by itself, or we may have to dip into some of the.
Tom, hate to put you on the spot. Do you happen to recollect the anticipated new build number for the pickle? We couldn't exactly remember it at the liquor committee meeting, but do you have any recollection of what a new build for the pickle would be? Wasn't there a rough estimate? What was your guesstimate? I like that. We estimate projects every day, but it's actually
$2
guesstimate.
million that the pickle hopefully would be able to cover it. on
Revenue
its own.
bonds, and
Yep,
et cetera.
revenue bond it. and be
Um,
done.
I just want to interrupt. It did come to my attention that the plow truck this fall there will be a 20% increase in the price of that plow truck sometime this fall.
Is that stated on the PO or the quote? Verbal?
So Tom, if you can come up, because we have Joe at the.
As I understand it, there's two parts to this truck. One is there's the truck, then there's the upfit of the truck that makes it a plow truck, okay? The truck will likely go up 20%.
Yep.
I believe it's in September. I'd have to double check that with Mike. So if at all possible, if we can place the order before then, we can avoid that price increase on that truck. The upfit, we're locked in a little longer. I'd have to find out what that deadline is. But the truck itself changes soon.
Are they taking orders for the trucks right now?
I think so.
Yep, they are. So we can
Yes.
bring the quote to the August council meeting.
So
and
waiting till August meeting to do that, is that cutting it too short?
I can find out and get back to you.
Get back to Jenny with if it's cutting too short, because if we have to have
We have
a
a
special
special.
meeting to get in underneath the window comfortably, we can do that. Because we know we're gonna do it. That's a done deal. We already know that.
Right.
That would put the cut for everybody's reference up with the cost of that truck at 331,000.
Now, wouldn't
Right.
that be under public safety?
No.
Well,
I'm trying here, people.
Those that live in the upper Midwest, yes,
Yes,
in the wintertime.
we gotta educate the people in the Twin
So
Cities.
as soon as you can get that info, you and Jenny can, if we have to call a special meeting to make that
Okay.
call, we'll do it.
I'll review with Mike tomorrow and we'll
Okay,
have an answer for you.
great. Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
Okay. So Jenny, do you have the info you need to move forward? I didn't say want, need.
Yeah. No, I think so.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right. Then we're gonna take a brief. I'll
Adjourn,
take
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned, Joe, and we got about 5 minutes.